Hi everyone, my name is Sabrina Mir and I am a teaching assistant for the Young Scientists Program at USC. Today is week 1 of the special education YouTube videos for the spring and we'll be talking about the water cycle. So before we start this lesson, I want you guys to pause this video and take a minute to write down what you know about rain. Before we do our experiment, we'll learn about something called the water cycle. So the water cycle is basically a path that all water on the earth follows in different states. So different states means like solid, liquids, and gas. The beginning of the water cycle starts with groundwater, or basically any water from like the ocean, rivers, lakes, and this water starts to get heated up. So before the water is heated up, it is a liquid in these oceans, lakes, and rivers, and once it's heated up, it turns into a gas, so vapor. This process of water heating up and turning into a vapor is called evaporation. So evaporation is when the water turns from a liquid into a gas. Once the water is a gas, it will start to rise from these oceans, rivers, and lakes up towards the sky. Once this water vapor reaches the sky, it begins to cool down. And when it cools down, it condenses back into a liquid. So condensation is the process of water going from a vapor or a gas back to a liquid, and this forms clouds. You can also think of condensation as when you take a really hot shower and you look at the mirror after you shower, you'll see the water droplets coming down your foggy mirror. That's condensation because the steam or the water vapor is turning back into these droplets that are on your mirror. Once this condensed water is in the clouds, gravity will eventually pull the water back down as precipitation. Precipitation is just a fancy word for rain. So once it starts raining, or once precipitation happens, the water will come back down to the oceans, to the rivers and the lakes, and the cycle can then repeat itself over and over again. Today we'll be doing a little bit of a demo with the water cycle using a Ziploc bag. So for this experiment, you'll need a Ziploc bag, a Sharpie, and some water. So you're going to go ahead and copy what I'm writing on the bag. The first thing is groundwater. So this is the beginning of the water cycle, with the water coming from the oceans, the rivers, and the lakes. Then I'm going to draw an arrow up to the next step, which is evaporation. So like we talked about, evaporation is when this groundwater gets heated up and it starts to turn into a vapor or a gas. The next step is condensation. So I'm drawing another arrow. This is again when the hot water vapor turns back into a liquid and forms clouds. And I'm drawing a little bubble around it for clouds. The last step is precipitation. So I'm drawing another arrow, and I'm going to write precipitation, and remember, this is just when gravity pulls down the water and it begins to rain. Going to draw some little dots to indicate rain, and then the last arrow will go back down, and I will write accumulated water, which is basically just the water that comes back down and goes back with the other groundwater. So go ahead and pause this video and copy down what I wrote. In the middle, I will also write the water cycle. So now I will open up this Ziploc bag and add my warm water in, and we will see what happens. You can also just put regular water and attach it to a window if you do not want to use hot water. So you can see the water at the bottom, and you can see these droplets in the fog happening on the bag. So just like we learned, this hot water from the ground starts to evaporate, and this fog that you're seeing on the bag is that water vapor. But once that hot water vapor, so the evaporated water, begins to cool down, it will form these water droplets that you start to see forming on the side, and this is condensation. And once these water droplets move towards the bottom, as you see ones collecting on the bottom, that is precipitation. Our diverse scientist for this week is Charles Anderson, who was the first African American to receive his PhD in meteorology, which is the study of the weather. He worked in the Air Force at Tuskegee as a squadron weather officer to help train fighter pilots work through the weather and fly. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you next week for week 2.